everybody, it's Bree at Do Space, and welcome to our summer how-to video series for adults and teens. Today I'm working on a small project in Illustrator. We're going to be manipulating letter forms in Illustrator. It's a fairly basic skill, but something that isn't always taught in basic classes, and the great thing about it is that you can create custom logos with it. You can just have unique letters with it. It's a lot of fun to play with. So let's get started. I'm going to start with my text tool. I have Illustrator open to a regular 8.5 by 11 document. And I also have the character palette and the Pathfinder palette open. If you're not sure where to get those, if you go to Window, they're listed in here. The other thing is that I am working in Essentials Classic. You may be working in just Essentials, or there may be another layout here that you're working in. But we're just going to get the text tool going. And I was working on this earlier and already had Pacifico Regular selected. That's the font that I'm going to be using. If you don't have that font, it is free from Google Fonts, and it is linked down in the description below if you want to follow along. So Illustrator automatically populates default text. I'm going to type my name in. And right now we have what's called live text. That means that if I use the text tool, I can click on it and I can edit it, I can change it, and do whatever I want with it. However, I can't manipulate the shapes of the letters. The only thing that I can do is change the letters, change the spacing, that sort of thing. I can't actually change the letter forms themselves, and that's what I want to do. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, with my text selected, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create outline. Now when I create an outline, it prevents it now from being edited as text. So I can no longer use the type tool and click on it and edit the text. It's actually points, and we can see that by zooming in and selecting it. We can see that there's vector outlines in it. Right now this is a grouped object, meaning if I click and move it, it's going to move everything at once. The first thing that I want to do is actually ungroup this. So I'm going to come up here to Object and Ungroup. And now I can move the letters individually however I want. I'm going to undo this, because what I really want to do is just nudge this over a tiny bit. I'm just using my arrow keys with everything selected to nudge it over and then nudge it up just a tiny bit. Just because I like a baseline, that's where the letters fall. I like a baseline that's just a tiny bit higher. Actually, let's see. We can also resize it a tiny bit. We could even rotate it a tiny bit if we wanted. Yeah, I don't like that. Some of figuring out text is just trying something and seeing if it works. If it doesn't, undoing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want all of these to be joined together. They're individual shapes. I'm going to come up here to the Pathfinder tool, and I'm going to click Unite. And now these are all one shape. Now let's change the dot into a heart. I'm zooming in, getting this into position, and we're going to manipulate this. So I'm using the direct selection tool, and I see here I've got several points, and I'm going to manipulate those. The first thing I'm going to do is select my anchor point tool that's under the pen tool, and I'm going to turn off the handles. Handles are these lines right here that allow you to manipulate curves. I want a point, so I'm going to turn off the handles on this point. And then I'm going to get rid of a few of the points because I don't really need them. I'm going to get rid of this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now I'm down to 4 points. For my heart, I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to get rid of the handles on this and actually draw them back. But I'm going to grab each handle with the anchor point tool and draw them up to form a nice point, form a nice valley. Let's manipulate this. Let's move this out, this out. I'm just adjusting the handles to adjust the curve. Doing the same thing here. There we go. Now I have a heart. So now I'm going to look at the B. I want to add a nice little swoopy bit to the B. So I'm going to get my pen tool out, and the first thing that you have to do is just draw something. So I am starting with a point. I'm going to draw a curve. May not be the curve I want, but I'm just going to draw it. Another curve. You can't manipulate points until you actually get something on the page. All right, definitely not what I want, but we're going to fix that. Now, using a combination of my direct selection tool, the anchor point tool, and the pen tool, I'm going to get this the way I want it. So let's get this like this. And I'm trying to match the original swoop as much as possible so that it's pretty seamless. And you could literally spend all day manipulating this until you got it exactly the way you want it. Always switch back to your selection tool. That looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a lip right there that we can fix in a second, but that looks pretty good. So we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to use the selection tool to select the swoop that I made. I'm going to select the B. I'm going to unite them, and then I'm going to clean up that little lip right there. And it's probably just as easy as going ahead and deleting a couple of anchor points. Let's see, that actually, I think, makes it pretty good. And there we go. Now I have a custom B, or a custom name I could put places. It sort of looks like the Barbie logo. But the last thing I would probably do so that I don't jostle things out of place is group them back together. And you can go up to Object and Group. Obviously, you can do this any way you want it. In addition to adding things to your letter forms, you can flat change your letter forms. So let's pick a different font. This is the standard font that comes with Illustrator. Type, create outline, object, ungroup. You can actually shift the base or the angle at which these stand up. So zoom in on this L right quick. So it has a point here, and I'm using my direct selection tool, and I'm selecting each individual point. Now I've got the 4 points selected. I could move it so I could make a smaller L. I could select these 2 points. Actually, let's select these top 2 points. I can shift it a little bit. Once you've turned your text into vectors, the possibilities are sort of endless. So this is a great thing to play with. It's a great thing to master. So if you like this how-to, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing how-to videos for teens and adults on a range of subjects every Friday this summer. Thank you.